And just recorded. Yep. All right. So we'll get popped off here and kind of leave off where we left off the last time when we first talked about the adrenals and the importance of the adrenals and how adrenals can down regulate things and give you falls. So kind of just wanted to start off and readdress why it's so important to optimize the thyroid to begin with, especially when you're dealing with females, is because for me, or at least the way that we look at it, the foundation of hormone health basically starts with those two hormones, T3 and T4. And again, like I've said in the past, when you look up the symptoms for thyroid and the overlap between them and what you see these HRT clinics advertising, they almost pretty much mimic each other. All the way from libido to mood change to fatigue. And then gotta remember is that thyroid is also a huge has a huge impact on other hormones too, especially for females that are dealing with PCOS or Graves' disease. It's a big part of that side of it. So you got to remember that the thyroid regulates the metabolism. It's kind of like what we always say. It's like the thermostat in the body. If your house if the thermostat in your house is like 60 degrees, you're really not going to sweat. Towards if your thermostat in the house is at 90, and you're going to sit there and bake. So obviously we want to make sure that thyroid's optimized up and to the point to where it's rubbing like a 90-degree house, and that way you're sweating in your workouts. If you're sweating in your sleep, that's going to be another hormone issue, usually tied to progesterone, which we'll get into that in different episodes. But with this one, we're just going to continue to slowly focus on the foundation of the order that we take, and that is always addressing gut health and diet, which is Hannah's going to tackle, and then also supplementation, which Jake is going to tackle, and the importance of why we want to do these things in this order. And then again, why we tackle the thyroid before we tackle other hormones before we start getting into this. So the big thing too, like I'll just kind of address it real quick, the safety consideration especially with females, when we're talking about testosterone, is the fact that if they have MTHFR and they can't metabolize that out fast enough, the liver will hold that. And then what I've seen in multiple cases where the testosterone to be checked and it will go, say, from a 12 to 15 to anywhere from a 60 to a 90, which is on the high side, but still within a good side. But then about the 6 to 8 week mark, and definitely by the 10-week mark, they're in the 300s, basically that of a low male. And now that person's having hair falling out again. They're having weight issues, more because of water retention. They're having acne breakouts. They're having hair in their face grow. And I can tell you the fastest way to lose a female client is have hair fall off their head and then have it grow in their face. So in that way, again, like I opened up with, you got to remember the way these HRT clinics are advertising, and then you compare those symptoms to the thyroid, they almost mimic each other. So then that is why we always start with looking at the thyroid, because again, what a lot of these clinics aren't talking about, and they don't even pull that hormone panel, which I don't understand, because again, the thyroid, the T3, T4 are two very important hormones within the body. So I'll go into what we do, and we start talking about this when we started talking about optimizing the thyroid function. And when we talk about it, again, we just can't be looking at TSH. Do a little history on this real quick, but TSH wasn't even a panel looked at until 1971, which is when levothyroxine was put to the market by Big Pharma. Prior to 1971, TSH didn't exist, and neither did levothyroxine or any of your T4. Everything was based on a bioidentical hormone. Armour was one of them, and I'm going to forget the name of the other one. But you have to remember is that bioidentical hormones cannot be patented. only medications can be. So that is why when you go to your primary or you go to your OB or even in some of these HRT clinics, they're only pulling TSH and T4, and you're leaving out a huge picture, which is what we need to know is what is that T4 to T3 conversion? How much of it is actually going over to T3, usable T3? In order to figure that out, we have to pull what's called reverse T3. Again, a little history on this. The only time doctors are told to pull reverse T3 is when they're someone's in the emergency room and they're dying. So you have to consider if you're going to be looking at optimizing someone's thyroid, and especially if you're going to go down the path of medication, don't you feel it'd be highly critical to get the same thing as someone's going to die? Don't you think it's critical enough to pull so you understand what that ratio is, so you give that client the right medication? Because if they have enough T4 conversion, T4 production, and it's not completely being converted to free T3, and a big part of it's going into reverse T3, so it's sitting out there wanting to be used, but it can't be used, then giving the client more T4 is only going to make them feel worse within about 5 to 6 days. Not only do they feel worse, but now they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth about the medication. They're not going to want any medications when actually they're put on the wrong medication. So that's why we always want to pull that reverse T3. And then we also like to pull what's called the thyroid antibodies, known as the TPO. And that is basically the antithyroglobin antibodies are the markers of the autoimmune thyroid conditions such as when you're dealing with Hashimoto's and Graves'. So it's really important to know that number or pull that number when somebody already knows that they have a history of Graves' or Hashimoto's, and when we're testing with that. So again, it's not just about pulling TSH and T4. It's about pulling everything that you need, or asking to have everything pulled. You got to advocate for yourself sometimes, having everything pulled to make sure that you're going to go on the right medication and you're being diagnosed correctly. Another big one we want to look at is cortisol. We kind of addressed cortisol. We're going to revert back to that when we talked about adrenals. Cortisol is the primary stress hormone that's produced by the adrenal gland, and stress can downregulate the hypothalamic pituitary HPA axis. So again, you could have a false number. Again, this is where Jake and Hannah are going to jump into and talk about how you can support that through proper diet, nutrition, and supplementation. And you can maybe get those numbers up without having to go on medication. And then another big one we want to look at is iron and ferritin levels. Now, iron and ferritin levels are essential for the thyroid hormone synthesis and metabolism. Iron is a cofactor for the thyroid paradox, and then the enzyme involved in the production of the thyroid hormone. Again, most people are going to look at iron as being, okay, I'm anemic. Exactly. Which is why that ferritin number is so important, because again, if you're anemic on that side, insufficient ferritin levels indicate the iron deficiency, which can negatively impact the thyroid health and also make the thyroid symptoms even worse. So by just simply getting your iron levels up, and then sometimes, again, medication won't do that. Sometimes it has to come to increased red meat uptake. And then you're going to have a female that normally will hear, well, I heard I'm only supposed to eat red meat once a week. And in some cases, that's very true. And in some cases, we increase red meat during their cycle because that's when it's an important time to do it. But then we have to come back and we have to support that with making sure they have the adequate stomach acid to break down the red meat. So again, just kind of recap on this. Whenever you are going to talk about optimizing your hormones, or whenever you are showing signs of low thyroid, which could be, again, hair falling out, it could be losing the tails of your eyebrows, it could be you're constantly tired no matter how much caffeine you drink, could be low libido, could be restless sleep, could be that you're cold a majority of the time, you stop sweating in your workouts. There's a lot of things that go to it. So when you're showing those signs and you're now going to go to your primary or go to a HRT clinic, or you're going to go to your OB or whoever you're going to ask to pull or look at your hormones, don't forget that they look at all your hormones, including your T3, T4. And when we want to make sure that we're going to be optimizing the thyroid before ever doing any medication specifically, we want to make sure that we have reverse T3, we have TPO, we have liver, we have iron and ferritin levels checked to make sure that these things are in where we need to be at before we ever start considering the type of medication we're going to go on. So, or put the client on, or you might go on. So, Hannah, why don't you go into and start talking about the nutrition role, the gut health role, and why that is such a critical role in optimizing the thyroid?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a double-sided relationship where poor gut health impairs the thyroid and drives it down typically, but also low thyroid function further hurts the balance in the gut. So it's optimizing both, but like everything else we seem to talk about, it does start in the gut because, starting with just nutrients, which we know everything does come back to food and what goes in. If we're not breaking down our food appropriately, if we're not actually breaking the food apart, extracting nutrients from it, we're becoming deficient in nutrients that are necessary to support the thyroid. So your zinc, your selenium, your vitamin A, your iodine, if your body can't utilize these things, your thyroid function is already going to be underactive. And that kind of counts as a potential root cause of underactive thyroid. So not only, you could be eating the right foods, but if we're not actually focusing on the function of the gut, getting those nutrients into the bloodstream so your thyroid can actually utilize them, we're kind of beating our head against a wall trying to support it. So we really do have to focus on supporting stomach acid, supporting digestive enzyme production, because we know, stomach acid, for example, your body needs zinc to produce stomach acid. And zinc also supports the thyroid. So if we're not consuming enough zinc, or if we're not absorbing enough zinc, your body's not going to produce enough stomach acid, which is going to further perpetuate the problem of nutrient malabsorption. So that's just one example there. Also with digestive enzymes, when you have low thyroid function, your pancreas is not producing enough enzymes to help break down the food once it gets to the intestines. So just from a breakdown perspective, thyroid function has to be optimal. And I think I talk about this, Jamie, I'm sure you do too, daily for sure, definitely weekly, but almost daily with clients that, so what if my thyroid's a little underactive? Well, it is a big deal, and we do have to really take that seriously. When we're talking motility, though, low thyroid function it slows everything down. We think about weight gain, we think about fatigue, we think about just the body slowing down entirely. And that does also affect the muscles of the intestines. So the motility of your gut pushing food through to get rid of it, that's going to be slowed down too. So we see a lot of constipation. We see when food sits in your intestines for too long and it shouldn't be there, we see the body reabsorb more estrogen that it shouldn't be. So all that to say, long-winded answer to say that we do really need to take it seriously, that thyroid and gut function both need to be working optimally in order for this to work. And personally, I've dealt with thyroid disease, the autoimmune side, which we'll get into later, but you can do so much naturally to support your thyroid, and we can't just pop a supplement and it's going to work. We have to do all sides to really get these numbers where they need to be.
1000%, all the way down to, and I'll add, again, this is where you got to do a little bit more extensive work. It's not just about pulling panels that you want to see to get the desired result that you want. Like I want to go on thyroid, I want to go on hormone replacement, so I'm just going to pull the panels to get this client on that, or that's what they want. again, if we're dealing with MTHFR and the curvaceous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts can also impact the functionality of the thyroid in certain people. So again, here you have someone eating extremely healthy, probably the cleanest they've ever ate, and they can't get their numbers to improve. They can't get their symptoms to improve. And again, they're not understanding the full big picture of what's contributing to the problem. Again, it's not their effort, it's the approach, it's the strategy that needs to change. And again, if you lack that, then that's where you need to bring in some people that can help you. So, all right. So
Jamie, I have a question for you guys.
Yep.
Have either one of you guys ever considered, and I'm sure you have, but going back to what Hannah touched on with iodine, a lot of that's derived from kelp and products like chromium picolinate. Do you guys still touch on those at all with clients? I know we don't carry that in-house, but it was something that we used to talk about back in the day, back in the old space, before we had
Right.
the common brand, before we had the Beauty Fit line, before we had our Quicksilver line. Like, is that something that you still would
Yes.
put on put a client on?
Absolutely. We just want to make sure that we're looking at it and we're getting source right. But if I remember right, I think Thyroid Total has iodine in it.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I forget off the top of my head what the actual amount is, but I know that like the chromium picolinate from Now Nutrition,
Yeah.
I think it's 200.
I think it's
micrograms or milligrams. I can't remember.
It's micro, and it's either going to be 200 or 250. It's one of the two.
That's what I thought. I just didn't know if that
Very good
was
point.
something. I didn't know if that was something that either of you would issue a client with their meal plan. I was just curious.
Yeah,
A
it's
lot
just
of times though, depending on the type of thyroid disease, if specifically with Hashimoto's, a lot of times supplementing with iodine makes them feel worse.
Yep.
So I mean, I think for the right case and assuming we've done the right labs,
Yeah,
it's appropriate.
Yeah. I was just curious, just because it's a supplement that we used to talk about back years when I worked at Supplement Superstore. It's because we carried it. It was another sales pitch, but in actuality, it did work. But again, when you're just blindly giving it out to people who bring up a thyroid issue, like without actually knowing the deeper root cause, it's
well,
I think it's inappropriate. But
yeah, even if you pulled up Google right now and talked about optimizing thyroid, iodine is going to be probably one of the top things that's going to pull up in the top 20 searches.
Right.
Again, that's what's so nice, and again, I mean, I'll be the first one to admit this, where we were at 10 years as a company, where I was at 10 years ago in knowledge and where we're at now. This is why it's so important we get this information and education out there, because now, based on what we do and what we know, we can really fast track someone and really cater to that person, to their specific needs and what they specifically got going on, because we now know the right panels to be pulling. Those panels we know to pull gives us the intel that we need in order to make sure we're making the right decision on how we go about it from a nutrition standpoint. Like I brought up broccoli, cauliflower, MTHFR automatically starts eliminating things out, right? Graves, Hashimoto's automatically starts eliminating things out. Remove those, automatically starts putting things back in. But if we're not getting those right panels and right things, then we're kind of guessing in the dark. And I mean, I've said this to you guys before, and even certain clients, back in 2009, when I didn't have Jen and the company and Dr. Becky and stuff like that, I couldn't get the stuff that we needed from their primary doctor. And in some cases, I lacked the knowledge back then too. It was trial and error. I put them on iodine. They're feeling like crap. Why are they feeling like crap? That's weird. The last 4 people I put on it felt fine. Well, because there's a missing link. There's something I didn't know. So again, that's why getting this education out there and not just mainstreaming everybody, and anybody who checks 2 or 3 boxes and fits the mold of this thing. No, we can really get in and we can isolate out and figure out what's going on. And yeah, it might take some repetitive testing. And yeah, it might take some more specific panels to be pulled. But the more we get into it, the more we start finding the more direct approach we can get with them. And that's the beauty of all this. So, and since you brought up supplements, why don't you go ahead and tackle the supplement side? Like Hannah said, supplementation is not where we want to run to, but
Right.
supplementation in some cases is what's needed. Again, take for example with me, there's certain things I can't absorb through food. I mean, even with B12, I can't even absorb it through a supplement. I have to take it through injection or through IV. So even though that's not where we run to, it's still a very good thing to use as a supportive measure, because again, sometimes we're just not getting the nutritional value through food the way that we need to. Even when we're doing our due diligence and spending out the Yahoo on organic and what claims to be organic, type of deal. So, Jake, why you go ahead head that up?
So I kind of want to tackle this, kind of piggybacking off of what Hannah said with, we don't want to run to the supplements, but a big aspect of what we all talk about is inflammation. Both thyroid dysfunction and adrenal issues are amplified by inflammation in the body. So a lot of times the anti-inflammatory aspects of a product like Thyroid Total from Common Sense, it contains ingredients that will reduce inflammation. So when you reduce inflammation, you promote better function of both the thyroid and the adrenals. And a lot of folks don't know that why we feel caffeine, for instance. Caffeine is something that once you consume, the adrenals are what pick that up. And after a while, they become exhausted and inflamed. Now you're no longer feeling the effects of the actual caffeine. The other side of that is stress. You have high amounts of stress, the thyroid and the adrenals start to bog down. We have products from Quicksilver and Beauty Fit. Oddly enough, they're both called Calm. They help reduce stress levels within the body, allowing your body to almost essentially give a break to both the thyroid and the adrenals together. The Beauty Calm, I think, is one of my favorite products. That we almost call it like nature's Xanax, because I've had 2 clients quit taking Xanax altogether. One of them, who has a very high stress job, and he loves Calm because he can take it throughout the day. It is not a pharmaceutical drug, but he gets the same healthy effect of that product, and he absolutely loves it. And I think all of us carry a certain amount of stress in our day, whether it's family, work, life. So, Quicksilver, Beauty Calm, 2 great products, and then along with that, the Thyroid Total from Common Sense is another, probably one of our top sellers.
Yeah.
Especially with you two and the amount of meal plans you guys do weekly, we blow through it.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember seeing a competition coach going online, and granted, now this is one that is very heavily pushing steroids onto people, talking about how thyroid supplements don't do anything for the thyroid. And I can think of about 10 clients that we have blood work that have taken their free T3 number anywhere from a 2.8, 2.9, 3.0, anywhere to the range of about 3.3 to 3.4. Again, Jake, you did a great job of explaining that. It's not just about supporting the thyroid, like trying to think that give yourself these supplements going to knock your thyroid right in the range. You also have to work on the adrenal side. You also have to work on the iron side. It's not just about give these couple supplements to the thyroid and voila, you got this magic situation. It's a whole proactive approach. And like Hannah, you brought up, combine that with nutrition, combine that with some of the stuff I'm getting ready to talk about, reduce down that overall inflammation in the body, the toxic load on the body, then the body can start working the way that it needs to, and watch these numbers start coming back up. I have a client that I was prepping for a show, just a recent one. She came in, her body looked beat up and tired. We pulled her labs. thyroid was down to 2.8. Cortisol was through the roof. Her insulin sensitivity was pretty good, and she does run anemic. So she's one of the ones. Picked up her iron supplementation a little bit more. Started giving her red meat 3 times a week. Because she can't do it every day because it was too much. It's too hard on her digestion, was slowing it down. Gave her thyroid total and gave her a Quicksilver Calm. And I think I got a message in 5 days. She goes, "You're a magician." She goes, and this client's been with me for 10 years. I'm sorry, 11 years, prepping for shows. She goes, "You're a magician as usual. I don't know how you do this." She goes, "But oh my God, look at my changes." And you could see it, 80% of the inflammation come off the body. She looked completely different in just 7 days. Now she's back on track to actually compete on May 18th, when we were talking heavily about her not doing it because it was just adding stress to her body and it wasn't worth the stress to go through that pathway. So,
Jamie, before you go on, I have a question. So like, say you have a comp client who's extremely exhausted. Obviously their adrenals maybe just worn out. A lot of people don't realize that the adrenals are also responsible for adrenaline,
correct.
like while you're training, while you're active, you get that boost of like you're on top of the world. Like when you're in the middle of a workout and things are moving. What's something that you would address with a comp client who's just running low on energy and can't even make it through a full workout, other than maybe adjusting macros to help fuel the workout? Is there anything that you address with that?
In some cases, depending about how far out we are, I'll tell them to take 3 days off.
Okay.
I wouldn't even let them go to the gym, and I won't let them do cardio. I'll just make them rest. And I'm like, if you have the means, if you're tired throughout the day, if you have the means to take a 15, 20-minute nap, take it. And I'll just a good example is that I remember a girl came to me about 6 weeks out from a show. She had been in prep for 16 weeks, was on a 900 caloric diet, 2 hours of cardio a day, and heavy weight training. And she just her body had not dropped a pound in 3 weeks and actually started to climb up. And so she came to me, and I like I told her, I said, "Look, I can't promise you anything." I said, "I can promise I'll bring you into the show healthier, but I cannot promise you're going to come in the type of shape that you need to be or want to be." I said, "Why don't we just take the next 6 days and see how your body responds, and let's just see what happens." And she's like, I like that." I said, "But let me finish what I'm going to say." I said, "Because you might not be on board when I'm done." And she goes, "All right." And so first I'm like, "I don't want you doing any cardio for the next 7 days." And she's like, "I'm 7 weeks out." I'm like, "I understand that." I said, "Again, no cardio for 7 days. And I want you to stop lifting heavy. And I want you to limit your workouts to no more than 40 minutes. And I want you to go to circuit style training, 1 exercise per body part, 1 to 2 exercises, 2 body part. And I want you in that 15 to 20 rep range. And I want you about a 2-minute rest between each one." She says, "All right." And I said, "Here's where we're going to get interesting." So I said, "I just want to see if your body's even responsive." Because like I said, she's like a super high protein diet, very low carb, low fat diet. So I'm like, I want you to do a burger and fries because I met with her on Thursday. I said, I'm going to give you some carbs throughout the day. I gave her a plan real quick. Took her, I think, up to 100 grams of carbs just so her body could do it. But then I hit her with a burger and fries. I said, if your weight drops 3 pounds to 4 pounds, then on Saturday after you train legs, and do that first circuit workout, I want you to go eat a pancake breakfast from the Shack or from can't think of the other healthier place. Anyway, I said pancakes. She's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "I'm dead serious." I said, "But if it only drops a pound or two, then I just want you to stick to the clean eating plan that we have." So she texted me the next morning, her weight was down 4.5 pounds. So that told me that how much stress water her body was doing, but it was still active enough to be responsive just to a load meal like that. So she ate that. And so then I'm like, all right, so then tonight on Saturday night, I want you to eat the pancake breakfast, eat your normal meals that I have when you're playing, and then Saturday night, I want you to eat a pizza. And she's like, you're joking. I'm like, I'm not joking. I said, and if you wake up, again, if you're down another 3 pounds, then I want you to go ahead. And I said, I want you to eat sourdough French toast. I want you to make it at home with some turkey bacon and some eggs. I said, if it's only a pound, then just stick to the normal oatmeal and egg whites. She called me. She's like, I'm 3.25 pounds down. So by this time, she's already down like almost 7.5 pounds in 48 hours. So I'm like, all right, clean eat. And then I said, I want you to eat sushi right before you go to bed. If your weight holds and we have you where we want to be at, you can go back to regular workouts, forget the circuit workouts, but still no cardio for a week. She ended up going through, and within that time frame, she lost 8.5 pounds over the weekend. Her metabolism was through the roof. She wanted to eat everything in sight. I think I brought her into the show eating 2,300 calories, and she ended up winning her class. But to go back to what you're saying, Jake, like what would you do? The point behind that is you got to give the body the ability to rest. And the reason I normally don't like doing junk like that, but in order to get that much dense calories into someone that was only eating 900 calories and 120 pounds, you're not going to get that much chicken and rice and chicken and sweet potatoes into the body to make a dent. That person, especially as a female, is going to feel so bogged down with food and like they're just stuffing their face. They're going to be completely turned off and feel horrible, and probably at some point probably be a little constipated because it's just too much of a stressor on the body to take on that much food. So you just got to hit it. And sometimes what's the most caloric bang I can get from my buck? That was it. And my go-tos all the time are always those three: cheese pizza, burger and fries, pancakes, and sushi. Those are my go-tos every single time when I'm trying to unlock someone that's been under eating significantly, and I feel like their body is completely stressed out from too much activity and not enough food, because it's going to be one of those four where they're going to come back and go, wow, that one, man, I feel great. And that they come back and say, yeah, the weight drop, but man, my digestion system's messed up. All right, we'll remove it. That goes out. And let's say it's the cheese pizza because of the dairy. That pizza goes out, come back with another burger and fries because the burger and fries digested so well. So when we talk about that, there's other things that you can do, which is like what I was talking about, giving the body a break. But there's things what we can do on a daily, some practices that you can incorporate. Cold therapy, whether it's through a cold plunge or whether it's through a cold shower. Got to remember, cold exposure through cold plunges or showers stimulates the thyroid gland and increases thyroid hormone production. Because the big thing is the activity, it activates brown adipose tissue, that brown fat, which generates heat through thermogenesis, helping the body to regulate metabolism and supports that thyroid function. Getting into heat, so that's why I like doing hot colds. I like doing 20, 30 minutes in the sauna, going right into cold plunge. If I have the time or if I know I need a detox, 10 sauna, 2-minute plunge, 10 sauna, 2-minute plunge. Rapid way to detox. Rapid way to do that if you're at a resort in Cancun. I always look for the resorts that have cold plunges and saunas, because I know if I want to go down there and have a couple of drinks, I know I want to rapidly detox fastly the next day and not let the build up. I'll go do that first thing. For those that are on the fence, I'm a big believer. I do believe in grounding mats. I do have them because overall it's like grounding yourself to the earth. If you don't believe me, whenever you're stressed, go stand in the grass for a couple minutes with no shoes and socks on. If you want to take it a step up, stand in the grass and put your hand on a tree, and you will noticeably start to feel better within 3 to 5 minutes. So the grounding mat has the same type of effect. It's kind of grounding you to the earth. It helps with chronic stress on the body and inflammation. So again, remember, what do we need to do to help improve the thyroid? Remove chronic stress, remove inflammation, support the gut, support the body. And then, of course, we can't ever forget, which is also the big one for all hormones, is sleep. I'd rather someone get 5 hours of solid sleep than 8 to 9 hours of restless sleep, waking up all the time. So making sure for sleep. So I think that's one thing too that we could talk about, even with supplementation, like going into magnesium, things that are going to help you go into a deeper sleep. Some people can't take melatonin, but maybe they can take GABA. And there's a couple other things you can do to take that. I know, Hannah, you got some tricks in your sleeve.
5-HTP also with that too.
Yeah, 5-HTP is a serotonin uptake inhibitor. It causes the body to release more of its own serotonin, the feel-good hormone, which also for women that are craving sugar on a regular, especially around their cycle, start taking some 5-HTP around your cycle and watch those sugar cravings go away. Only one time I've had one person say it actually made it worse, which I still have yet to figure that out. And that's been a while. Weight training, of course, is for metabolic health. Again, that's going to bring the heat up on the body. That's going to de-stress the body. But again, kind of like we talked about with the one client, same thing with cardio. Sometimes you have to remove that stuff, because even though it's good stress, when the body is too stressed, it can't distinguish between good and bad anymore. It just knows it's even more stress. So sometimes it's just better to go home and go to bed. Go to bed, rest, and just chill, and then watch your energy levels start to come up on that side. So, taking care of those things, cold therapy, whether it's in cold plunge, sauna, infrared, or you can do hot cold transition showers in the shower, go from hot to cold a couple of times. Grounding mat, make sure you optimize your sleep, make sure you're getting a good 4 to 5 hours in deep REM. Again, that's much better than 8 hours of restless. Make sure you're weight training, cardio, things to pay attention to in weight training and cardio. If your body is overly stressed, you stop sweating, your appetite goes away. Like you initially were really hungry for a couple of days, and now it's gone, and now you have little to no hunger, and you're tired all the time, no matter how much caffeine intake you have. So those are bullet points.
Can I add something to that also with the
Absolutely
supplements? So the Quicksilver column and the Beauty column, I tell everyone that, and this is true, like this can be pulled up on their website. You can take this throughout the day, but you can also use it as, I wouldn't say a sleep aid, but when you're less stressed, you're able to get better sleep. So you can take these products throughout the day. If you feel, if you're feeling like you're on edge, it helps take you out of that high stress zone and kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit, along with a grounding technique that he mentioned. But you can take this, right after dinner to help calm those nerves a bit so that you can lay your head on that pillow and feel more relaxed. But it is not a sleep aid, so to speak. You'll just get better quality sleep using those products.
1000%. Yeah, you just kind of said mine and Jen's cocktail. It's beauty. It's a Quicksilver calm. It's I take magnesium by Vitality, the magnesium Vitality calm. Jen adds to her MagTech because she takes an obscene amount of magnesium. So she takes that like that because it's 11 different blends plus that. And then she adds melatonin to hers too, Quicksilver melatonin. And that'll knock you out.
I cannot do melatonin. I get the worst nightmares you could possibly imagine.
I don't have nightmares, but I do have some pretty funky dreams. Like
I'm always getting killed. I'm always
yeah.
getting killed in my dreams. I'm like, I don't like this.
I'm going to join in on that one. I can't take melatonin either. I get the weirdest dreams.
Try GABA. Try GABA.
I do Hannah has me taking the magnesium, and that seems to really help me. Like I've even gone down because I have Graves' disease, and at my worst point in that, I was not sleeping, not one wink of sleep at night. And so I think I was on, Hannah, what was it, 800 at the time, maybe even more. I'm not sure.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah. And now I'm down to 400, and I sleep pretty good. In the last month, maybe I wake up a little bit more, but I sleep pretty good. But melatonin, I cannot do it. I feel hungover the next day too when I take melatonin.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep. No, that is a common occurring thing with a lot of people with melatonin on that side. It's the crazy dreams, or they literally feel like they were out drinking all night long
Yeah.
on it. So, um, Kim, do you have any questions we can answer for you while we have you on?
Uh, I guess I was thinking because so I just came off completely off of my anti-thyroid medicine, my methimazole. I was on a pretty low dose, and after my endo finally running, I think he didn't even run everything you said, but he ran like the antibody, the T-Rab and all that, and I was able to come off of it. So I guess my question would be, because my biggest concern, because you end up getting PTSD with how awful you felt when you were sick. So like in hearing the different supplements and things like that, what, because I don't particularly would want to go on my medicine again, given that what if things started to go up again, and hopefully they don't, but what if they did? Could it be that caught early enough I could do where, you all could help me as far as supplementation rather than going back on methimazole? Because that, I can't stand that medicine.
What don't you like about it?
For me, like Hannah's watched this journey, and obviously I can't blame it 100% on that medicine, but I had lost, and I have done DEXA since probably about 2015. I'm not a fan of anything else. I stuck to my DEXA since then. And when I was sick, I probably in about 6 weeks time had lost about 13 pounds of muscle. Like I just was so sick.
Yep.
So when they, and just weight in general. So when I was put on the methimazole, I think I was doing 20 milligrams a day. Maybe it was 15 and 15. They had me splitting it. So maybe 30. I had points at the time with working with Hannah where I was eating everything she had me eating, doing everything I was supposed to be doing. And literally my weight was going up, and it wasn't good weight that was going up, And so I attribute it to that. I know there's a lot of factors. I understand that because, Hannah talks me off the ledge often. I understand that there's a lot of factors there, but I think that's what I associate that with, is that it just, and I always kind of disagreed with the endocrinologist telling me, well, we want to just give you this medicine and then kind of throw you all the way down and then give you thyroid medicine to bring you back up to, level. And it's like, okay, but you think level is when I'm at the very bottom of my range. So I don't really even understand that either. So that's why I don't like it, because a doctor that's telling me nothing else works besides this medicine, and we just want to take you below normal so we then can give you, whatever thyroid medicine to bring you back.
Yeah, they were pushing you hypo, which
Yeah,
was
they're
giving us
pushing way
the opposite
hypo.
problems. And then, yeah, it's been a
So,
journey, but I'm glad you were
yeah.
able to come off.
Yeah.
So the thing with, again, I'm going to say this in the most polite way I can. It baffles me that these endocrinologists are the worst when it comes to this. Even more so than primaries, but are really with the endocrinologists, because they actually know this stuff, and they refuse to use it. When that is, whether that's because they just refuse to learn a different way than they were taught in school. But again, they're the ones, when you start talking about thyroid medication, it's almost like we might as well debate politics. Are you and when I say that, it's like, okay, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, but then there's not just a Democrat Republican, then you have a far left and you have a far right. So it's almost like four different ones, right? You have like, which side are you on? Well, this is that and this is that. So when you get into it, that we only use bioidentical hormones. We only use Armour, and for that reason, because Armour is a 16-to-1 ratio, it supports T3 and T4 production. If you're just, again, only going to support one side of the coin, T4, and again, if you have the T4 production and it's going into reverse T3, and you're not watching that, then that ratio becomes so far off, and you can end up with a situation like you had, where the weight just starts going on and on. But to go back to answer your original question, what can you do from having to go back on medication? make sure you're doing the things you need to do to ensure that you're supporting your adrenals, supporting that through food, everything that we just talked about, exercise, cardio, ways to de-stress the body, whether it's through optimizing your sleep, using a sauna, using hot cold transition showers, supplementation. And especially like if you go out and you're hanging out with your friends over the weekend and you had a couple of drinks and you were out later the night before, ramp that up a little bit for the next couple of days.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean you can't go have fun. It just means if you're going to go have fun, then you have to support the system a little bit heavier. You
Yeah.
know, give it the tools it needs to recover quicker and do that. The same thing is like when we talk about, okay, you want to go out and have steak and you want to go out and have a couple of drinks. My advice is go to bed on some lemon water, wake up with lemon water and drink lemon water AM and PM for the next 3 days. If you already know that you have bad low stomach acid chronically, then I would say go to bed on lemon water and HCl on Saturday night. Wake up, lemon water and HCl. Sunday, take it, HCl and lemon water, and then gauge on where your stomach's at. So you can go do the stuff, but you also got to know how to support your decisions. If you choose not to support your decisions, over time, you will end up back into a place where you'll have to have the medication. And even in some cases, where someone's T3 to reverse T3 to T3 range is out of whack, and let's say they are a 25, 26-year-old female, and we're like, they're too young to be on thyroid medication for a long period of time. Sometimes we'll just put them on straight T3 to knock that range back in for like 14 days, and then wean them back off the medication and then support them with everything we just talked about.
Okay. Yeah.
So it
I mean,
sounds to
that
me
makes sense.
like the medication knocked you back into a range where things might be working. But if you want to get off the medication, then you make sure that you have to do the things to support your body for whatever decisions you're making to ensure that you don't go back that direction. And if you did go back that direction, why don't you come talk to us and we can show you maybe a different way of how to
Yeah.
approach the thyroid.
Yeah. So being proactive, and that's again, I mean, working with Hannah now for a couple of years now, and
Yeah.
I was already working with her before I was even diagnosed. So she watched this entire
Yeah.
journey,
I remember
and I
you.
know, I'm sorry.
I remember you. I remember talking with Anna about this, about you. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm complex for sure, but she's helped me a lot, and all of you have. I mean, Jen and whatever, all the way over here in California, and I
Right.
got to visit you guys in Missouri at one point, and it was great. So yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, being proactive. I'm not the biggest like go out and drink anymore. Drinking I've even like gotten rid of because I just don't feel good on it anymore at all. I love a drink, but it's not worth it anymore to me. But I am a personal trainer myself, so I have very early hours. I get up early. Sometimes I don't get to bed the best time that I would like to and whatnot, and adjusting to that time, like that's what that spoke to me, is even with my job and different things, if I'm like feeling run down, being more on the proactive side of that, because I can't help the fact that I've got a 4:30 in the morning client or whatever.
Yeah. No, give you a perfect example today. I did not sleep for anything last night because we had a big storm come through St. Louis, and our pup shakes and is terrified of thunder and everything. So I think I was up, yeah, walked out. Me and Jen both had to walk downstairs, get her out of the laundry room, shaking, holding her. Neither one of us slept. So today, like even before I worked out, and I even was not going to even work out, I went and spent 35 minutes in the sauna, and then I cold plunged. Then I came out, then I ate, salted my food up even more. I did it extra heavy on electrolytes, a little heavier on my salt. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't feel too bad. So I went out and I did just a really light workout. But to go back to, I was not going to work out, but I was going to do the sauna and the cold plunge to support my system. So like for you as a trainer, sometimes like if you're during the day, you're like, I have to get this workout in, because if you are feeling that dragged down, make that a rest day or just a cardio day, and then just move your workouts around to compensate for it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
That's one way you can support your system, is just, I mean, pay attention to it. don't be bullheaded into say, no, I have to work out because I'm a trainer. I have to live by example. You know, I tell my clients to suck it up, so I'm going to suck it up. Sometimes you just need to tell yourself, I just need to rest.
Yeah, I that's a lesson I could probably learn, because I will a lot of times. I was just telling Hannah today on our appointment, and I'm like, and I think there's a fine balance of like when you feel like I don't want to go do this right now, but
Oh, yeah.
you know, put on your big girl pants and go. And then that balance of really listening to your body and going, okay, I only got a certain amount of rest or whatever it may be. There's high stress in life or whatever. Like, take the day off and arrange your workout a different day this week. So that's a lesson I could definitely learn for sure.
And don't ever, like I said, I know Hannah preaches this too. Don't forget about salt, you know, pink Himalayan salt, you know. It's funny. I've gotten into a habit where I add, I'm up to a teaspoon now of Celtic sea salt in my water first thing in the morning.
Mm.
You know, and I just start my day like that. Today I did it first thing, and then within an hour I did it again, and within 2 hours I did it again. But
Okay.
you know what happens too is you got to remember your brain wakes up 20% dehydrated. So the only way that water can get into the cell or into the muscle is through sodium. So if you're going to use that, you know, hydrate your brain, you're a little cognitively off. People want to run to caffeine. Sometimes just some water with some electrolytes snaps your brain back into where you need to be at, and you don't even need the caffeine.
Okay. And Hannah, is or either one of you, all three of you, is that on top of what you already have me doing? Like during my workout, I'm drinking my electrolytes, like my elements. Would that be on top of that I would wake up in the morning and do that, or no?
You can if you're feeling a little sluggish in the brain. Again, you know, if you wake up and you've had a poor night's sleep, or you were out with your friends a little bit late or anything like that, you come off a vacation and your brain feels sluggish and you just feel like I can't wake up. Instead of running to the pot of coffee or an energy drink, I'd run to a little bit of salt water.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Especially with the electrolytes you're taking are not that concentrated.
Mhm.
Correct. Yeah, there's maybe 50 micrograms. There's
Gotcha.
not a lot in those, but you know, up to 100 to 150. I take that back in electrolytes. Yeah, in certain brands, there's about 100 to 150 in there. But again, you know, like I said, you always got to weigh it out. You know, it's kind of like money. You know, if you've been spending a little extra heavy for the month, like through the holidays, then afterwards, what do? You usually save a little extra heavy to put the money back.
Yeah, I like that analogy. I always use that with my clients when I'm talking to them about food. You know, I'm not ever telling them what they should eat, but I'm giving them like suggestions. I'm like, treat it like a bank account. You know, if you
Yep.
think that you went too far this way, you better tighten up over here, you know. So yeah,
Your credit card balance is a little too high, then you need to start paying some debt down.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, is there anything else we can answer for you?
I think that was it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you always tuning into these. So,
Thank you.
like I said, the best thing that we can do, like I said, comparing myself to where I was 10 to 11 years ago, you know, one, I didn't have the resources, but two, now what I've learned over the years, going through everything, it's like the biggest and best thing I feel that we can do is to educate people the best that we can by going out and doing things like this, because the more we can educate people and give them the knowledge that we've gained, then you know you're paying it forward. And I think that's how we can really truly change people, and also hopefully make an impact in this industry that's filled with garbage, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I do take it. I want to learn. I've been listening to your podcasts, and I want to learn so that I can learn for myself, but also give to my clients what I have learned, you know. So, and that's what got me to be a trainer in the first place, because I decided to go on this journey and decided to compete. And then I realized what I taught myself in competing, because I really didn't have a coach in it, and was like, if I could do this for myself, I can help other people, and not necessarily to compete, but just in the way I was able to like learn things about my body and how to work out and things like that. So I do
Yeah.
appreciate all that you guys put out there for myself, and so that I can pass that along. And Adam's listening too. He's working, but he's listening to this whole thing as well. So he says thank you too.
But you know, the reality is you don't have to be in a competition like a bodybuilding show, because the reality is we're competing to look the best and be the most confident in the mirror every day. And that's what I tell people, especially my people post show, when they're like, what do I do next? I'm like, well, you're the head judge in the mirror. Like,
Yeah.
you wake up and you either like what you see or you don't. And if you don't, then you need to tighten things up and make changes. But you know, the competition is ourselves, and that's ensuring that we perform at the best and look the best that we can and optimize our health and make sure that we live a long, fruitful life.
Yeah. Yep. That's the goal. Well, I appreciate you guys.
No problem. Pleasure having you on.
you.
And then
Thank you.
we'll wrap it up. So I'll
All
see you
right.
guys tomorrow at Precision.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.